been quite a while, but we have Matt Struthers back with us once again for a crop report. And so, how has it been since the last time I've talked to you, Matt?
Well, it's certainly been exciting. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen a bit of heat and a bit of rainstorms come through, and now finally we've seen, or we're seeing a few producers down here in the south start harvesting. So lots is going on, and then lots more to go.
You just mentioned that producers are starting to harvest. Kind of what is it overall looking in terms of now that we're getting close to that harvesting? What's the moisture content looking like? And are producers looking for a tad bit more rain, or are we hoping that the sun can stick around and allow producers to now start harvesting?
It's a little bit of both. Some producers who are still, their crops are a bit more delayed and a little bit behind, and they're still, maybe finishing up flowering and starting to fill their pods and heads with kernels. Those producers could go for a little bit more rain just to help those crops finish up. Kind of accompanied with that heat though. If it's kind of dreary, cold, rainy days, that's not going to be any advantage. But if it's light rain here and there, and then some nice warm days, those crops will make great strides. Whereas down here in the south, where harvest has started, for some producers, rain just delays them. So they would like that rain to hold off because their crops are ready to go. There's no need for it to rain right now, and they would like to get the crop off and then let it rain all day long if it wanted to.
That producers in the south are starting to harvest. What about producers in the more central and the northern areas? Are they looking for that rain to stop in order to get in? Are crops being hard to get into right now because it's being really wet in some areas, or are we not having that wet problem that we have had in some years in the northern and central parts of Saskatchewan?
Well, harvest hasn't started anywhere except for parts of the southwest and west central regions, just due to the stage of the crop was at, and then also just the dryness. The dry periods this summer have really pushed those crops along quite fast compared to the parts of the southeast and east central, and then the northeast and northwest. And typically they don't start harvesting for at least a few weeks after the south has started. So they're looking for their crops to finish up and fill out and kind of reach their yield potential before they'd ever look into get into harvest. So many crops in the province are well behind for harvest. So they're a few weeks, I would say 10 days to 2 weeks from harvesting anywhere else in the province except for those parts of the south and west central that are dry and ready to go.
So in our previous talks, we were having some problems with some tick beetles, and some other pests were being talked about as well. There has been some hail damage in parts of Alberta. Has that been seen much in Saskatchewan, any parts of Saskatchewan, or has crop damage been kind of minimal in comparison?
Oh, no, unfortunately, grasshoppers have just continued to be quite the nuisance for many producers across the province, and kind of at a widespread across the province, across the southeast and southwest and parts of the central regions. They've been quite bad, and producers have struggled very hard at controlling them. Whereas you mentioned hail, we'd been quite lucky in most of the province to not get any hailstorms, except for this last week. We had a terrible hailstorm come in from Alberta and kind of cross through the west central, down towards Lake Diefenbaker area, and then down to the parts of the southeast and east central. And some fields were just minorly damaged. There wasn't too much damage there, but other fields were severely hailed out and completely ruined. So it's very unfortunate to see that happen, later in the season when harvest wasn't too far away from many producers there, and now their season's cut short by what we call the Great White Combine. So always hate to see it, but it's just one of those things. Going forward, one of the things we certainly don't want to see is any more hailstorms, or certainly not a early season frost. That would just be against everyone's best wishes.
Thank you so much for all the information, Matt, and hopefully we get to see you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.